Hi there. All right, this is video 3 in our series here on the CO2 car designs for 2022 TSA, Dragster design competition. All right, so we left off, yes, all right, we were doing the axle holes. Let's see. So bottom of the axle hole to bottom of car, it has to be between 5 and 10 millimeters, and then axle hole from the front and the back of the car have to be between 15 and 100. We were drawing some of that. All right, we're going to do a little more trimming. All right, so I'm going to hit TR and spacebar. I'm going to click here, here. I'm just leaving these two rectangles, and then when I'm done, I'm going to hit spacebar in the command. All right, so the axle holes or the bearing holes, whatever is outside of my car, the bottom of that has to land somewhere in this box. So it should be 15 millimeters from the front, and I'm counting this as front since that's the longest it could be. So if I actually put the length of my car somewhere in the middle, then this will probably adjust just a little bit. All right, I don't know exactly where I want my axles yet, but it has to land somewhere in there. And there's one more rule, constraint or requirement, minimum wheelbase. So this is the axle distance apart at the furthest points. All right, so 105 millimeters minimum. So that is from axle to axle, 105 at least. All right. So how can we show this graphically? From the farthest point, I think is what it said. Let me double check. Um, Here we go. Axle distance apart at farthest points. So farthest points apart, I would take it to be, so let's draw a line, L, enter, from that quadrant. Uh, I'll aim it over here to the right, 105, enter. I'll hit enter or spacebar again to end the command. All right, and then I'll get this circle, select it, M for move, and spacebar, and I'll click on the bottom quadrant of that. Nope, sorry. Select it, M, spacebar, and the right quadrant is what I want. And I'll put it on the end of the line I just made. So here's the line and the axles. So the wheelbase can't be any closer together than that, I believe. All right. Normally I measure from center of hole to center of hole, but I think farthest points, that might be from inside there to inside there. As long as we don't get it close to that, we should be okay. So I'm going to move this circles and the lines over some. And I don't know exactly where I want to have them yet. So I'm going to move it over 107. So this would be, so the axle hole here would be just barely within the parameters, 5 millimeters from bottom of the car to the bottom of hole. I would probably want to move that up some. So if I move these up by 2 millimeters, the bottom of the hole is right in the center between those two lines, and that's a pretty safe place to put it. So where I'm going to put them left to right, I don't know yet, but I know I have to keep it within this sort of rectangle. So I'm going to leave what I've got so far because I haven't quite figured out the shape of my car and exactly where I want my axles yet. Uh, I'm not going to show the axles on the top view yet until I figure out kind of where I want them. All right, let's take a look at some more of this and just see if there's anything else we want to add. So that's all the axle stuff. You can use bearings, bushings, graphite for a lubricant. You can use glue to secure a bearing to the body of the car. All right, so we can use those things. So if you're using like a bearing, the hole for your axle may need to be bigger, so you have to be careful with that. All right. There's a CO2 cartridge hole in the back of the car. I've already drawn that. The hole depth. All right. Safety zone thickness 3 millimeters. Going back to AutoCAD. So this is the CO2 chamber, and they don't want us getting any closer than 3 millimeters. We have to have 3 millimeters all the way around that. Sort of make sure, like when we set this thing off, it doesn't bust through the side and come flying at our faces. Yeah. All right, so we're going to offset this, and I like to go 5 millimeters just to make sure we're not even getting close. So offset 5. So that was O and enter, and 5 and enter. And select object to offset. I'll choose this line, this one, and I'm offsetting them outwards, and I'll do the same up here. And I'll hit spacebar to end that. So all the way around, it's going to have a 5 millimeter buffer zone, so we won't get into that. All right, so if I want to close these corners up, the best way to do that would be the fillet command, F for fillet, F-I-L-L-E-T. It's not fillet, it's fillet. All right, so it's sort of a round over normally. So F and enter. R, we're going to choose the radius option. So R and enter. All right, so mine's set to 0. If it says 0, just hit enter. If it doesn't say 0, you can just hit 0 and enter and set it to 0. So now I'll click 2 lines that are perpendicular to each other, or at least that will come to a corner. And when I choose those 2 lines, it comes together at 90 degrees. I'll hit enter to restart that. I already set my radius, so it's set. So I just click those 2 lines again, enter to restart it, and do it one more time, enter again, and there we go. All right, so there's that sort of buffer zone or safety zone thickness. We have the chamber diameter drawn. Lowest point of chamber diameter to race surface, 26 to 40. So let me go back. All right, so lowest point of chamber diameter to race surface with wheels. All right, so here's the lowest on my front view. Whoops. From there to where it's going to, what would be the racetrack, the bottom of the wheels, has to be between 26 and 44, I think. What was that? 26 and 40. But I don't have my wheels yet, so I'm not exactly sure if that's where I want it. So I'll have to come back to that later. Make sure that I fall within that range. All right, so screw eyes. Let's see, inside diameter, min and max. The ones that we use, I think, are close to the minimum. They might be a little bit bigger. We'll worry about these later. Right now, I'm going to leave that alone. Minimum distance apart. Yeah, we'll do this a little bit later. The wheels, we could go ahead and draw the front and back wheels. All right, so there's front and rear. Okay, so there's a minimum and maximum diameter and a minimum and maximum width, and that's surface contact with the track. Okay, so choosing wheel sizes, this is where it could get a little tricky. All right, so you might think, okay, I want to go with the smallest wheel size, but we may adjust that later. So I never go right to the limit. I give myself a little room in case, you know, a judge is measuring it and they feel like I'm just slightly under. So if it says 32, I'm going to go 33. If the width at the front wheel is 1.5, I might go 2 or 2.5 for how thick it is. So let's go ahead and draw a couple of wheels on the front view. So they'd be circles in this view, C and space bar, and I'm going to put it centered on these axle holes right now. D for diameter, so the smallest it can be is 32. I'm going to go 33. All right, and then the back ones, rear diameter 35 to 40. All right, so C for circle, click here, D for diameter, and enter, and then 35 is the minimum. I'll do 36. And then I'm thinking, it might be easier if I can just make them the same. So if I make the front one 36, it's still within range. So I'm going to select this circle, CO for copy, copy it to this one, and spacebar in the command, I'll select that other one and hit delete. So if my wheels are the same size, then it's less to think about. The axle holes can be in the same location. The bottom of the car will be parallel with the racetrack. So I'm going to try that. Now in the top view, the wheels cannot be inside the body of the car. They have to be outside this year. So for the front, they can be a minimum of 1.5, the back a minimum of 12. So in the top view, it's going to look a little different. Before I draw the top view, I want to kind of make sure I like where they're at, how far they're spaced. And I think I want to space them a little further apart, but still within this sort of rectangle we have. So I'll select these two circles and I'll move it back. And I'm going to move it back to where I don't want it in the CO2 chamber safety zone. Let me move it back like 23. It's still within this rectangle I've got. And I like to have a pretty wide wheelbase if I can get away with it. That way the back end's not too heavy and lifting up the front end. So I'll move this forward. Let's make it 40. All right, so my new wheelbase, I'm going to do DI for the distance command. I'll click on the quadrant there and there. Or there we go, quadrant 164 point something. All right, so that meets all the requirements. So the wheelbase is wide enough, it's at least that long. Let me hit escape. I'm going to select the circles, and I'll put these on the object, or let's see, we need to make a new layer. I'll hit escape. Layer properties manager, if you need to open it back up, it's LA enter. All right, a new one, and we'll call this wheels. Turn on caps lock, wheels. Wheels and axles. And I'll make it cyan. All right. So they're already selected, so I'll just come up here and click on it there and hit escape. I'm going to leave this line just as a reminder that my wheelbase doesn't need to be any more narrow than that. All right, so we've covered quite a bit of ground here. I'm going to stop there. I think when we start next time, we'll transfer some of this to the top view. And we should soon be able to start drawing the contours of our car the way we think we want to design it. All right, so let's stop there for now, and I will see you in the next video.